First day back with his rich family, and he'd already shut everyone up. Just a moment ago, his biological parents were still running their mouths, saying that growing up in an orphanage meant he had zero manners or skills. All while coddling the fake young master who was crying up a storm, promising him the real son was only back for some business marriage arrangement. But the very next second, our guy left the fake master totally speechless. "Have you ever met your real mother?" he asked. "I have. She ran straight to me, knelt down, and begged me not to throw you out of the Wood family. Do you know why? Because she has a severe life-threatening immune disease and needs a mountain of cash for treatment. She was terrified that if you left the Wood family, her personal ATM would be gone." Max Wood. Have you ever actually given her a single cent? Max just froze, his mouth hanging open. He was completely speechless, but Cole wasn't done with him yet. He pressed on. "Do you even know your biological father's last name? Need me to spell it out for you?" At that, one of the Wood family cousins lost it. She couldn't take it, raising her hand to slap him. "You better shut your mouth." A sharp crack echoed through the room, but it wasn't her. Before her hand even got close, a plate with a slice of cake slammed directly into her head. Bright red jam, or maybe blood, dripped down from her hair. Her furious glare instantly turned into a look of absolute bewilderment. Cole just calmly brushed the cake crumbs off his hands. "You wanted to hit me. Who do you think you are to touch me?" He eyed her cake-covered face. "With a face that ugly, I highly doubt you're a real child of this family either. Maybe you should get a DNA test, too. Get a 2-for-1 deal with your precious cousin over there." He then tilted his head, looking past her at Max, who was hiding behind her. "Well, Max," Max snapped his head up, glaring at Cole like he wanted to murder him. But in the end, all he did was clutch his head and let out an agonizing scream. And that's when Granny Wood stormed over, glaring daggers at Cole. "I know you have a problem with Max. Regardless, you two are brothers. But your upbringings were worlds apart. It's only normal for you to feel some resentment. But get one thing straight, this is not Max's fault. The Wood family owes you. We, your elders, will of course compensate you. But that does not give you the right to act so arrogant and bully your brother. If the orphanage that raised you didn't teach you these basic manners, then starting today, I will be the one to teach you. You have been back for this long and haven't called me Granny even once. Have you no basic courtesy?" Hearing this, Cole slowly raised his eyes, looking at the bitter old woman, trying to pull the seniority card on me. "I beat the director of my orphanage until he had a concussion before I called him Grandpa. How about I give you a good smack on the head, too? Then I'll call you Granny. Sound like a plan?" Granny Wood was floored. "What did you say?" Max stared in disbelief. "Are you insane? How can you talk to Granny like that?" "Who's Granny?" Cole shot back. "I don't share any DNA with you. How could we possibly have the same grandmother? Stop trying to force it." Relatives out of thin air, and right on cue, Granny Wood clutched her chest and collapsed. The whole room just exploded into chaos as people yelled for medicine. Others rushed to carry her. It all happened so smoothly, almost like they had rehearsed it. 100 times even, the so-called welcome party ended in total disaster. After she was revived, Granny would lay on her bed, weakly gasping out her words. "Fiona, I don't care if you buy him a house somewhere else in the city, or even send him abroad. I just never want to see him in the Wood family mansion ever again." Fiona, the mother, looked horrified. "Mom, what are you saying?" "I'll have a proper talk with Cole." "Talk about what? What is there to talk about? He doesn't even want to acknowledge me as his grandmother, nor you as his mother." Cole, who had been silent this whole time, let them vent. Then he looked up. "I never said I wouldn't acknowledge my mother. I just don't acknowledge you. After all, my mother has never personally told me that Max is her only real son." Amidst the shock, he took a step forward. He stared directly at Fiona. "Well, are you going to follow this old lady's lead and declare that Max is your only real son? If so, I really came to the wrong place." Fiona froze. Max went rigid, turning to look at his mother. When she didn't answer right away, his eyes turned red with sheer disbelief. He cried out, "Mom," his voice absolutely full of heartbreak, but Fiona. She didn't dare turn her head. The young man across from her didn't look like a pitiful, long-lost son. He looked more like a cold, detached judge waiting to fail her and kick her out of the game entirely. And even though she had no idea where this feeling came from, her gut screamed that she did not want to be eliminated. Fiona hesitated, then said awkwardly, "Cole, don't be so hostile towards Max. We raised him for 20 years, even if there's no blood." But before she could finish, Cole cut her off, too late. The people in the room had already heard everything. A few distant relatives who didn't know the truth couldn't hide their shock. The old lady started gasping again. Between heavy breaths, she screamed, kick him out right now. If he won't acknowledge me as his grandmother, then my Wood family doesn't need him as a grandson." She forced herself to shout before clutching her chest and collapsing back onto the pillows. In the middle of the chaos, the door opened and someone walked in. Max took half a step back, timidly calling out, "Dad." Derek Wood's gaze swept across the crowded room. "What are you all doing crowded in here? Don't you know the old madam needs her rest?" The old lady grabbed his hand. "I can't afford to offend this new son of yours. Let me tell you, Derek, in this house, it's either him or me. From now on, my only grandson is Max. If you dare let him stay here, you can just wait to collect my corpse." After delivering her ultimatum, she shut her eyes, refusing to say another word. Derek showed not a single ripple of emotion. He turned to look at Cole by the bed, then glanced at everyone else. "Let's take this to the next room." The Wood family's tea room was spacious, perfectly suited for a large family meeting. Derek chuckled softly. "I have to tell you, your grandmother absolutely adores Max. Plus, she's getting old and can't handle much excitement, so even out of respect for her and we will not just kick Max out of the Wood family. I also need to tell you this." Cole shot back that he despises both Max and that old woman. He declared that if they have to choose, and they choose them, then Cole has no problem disowning them as his parents. Derek just stared at Cole. "You think I care whether you value our family or not?" Fiona gasped in shock. Max was just as stunned. In this entire city, nobody had ever dared to talk to Derek Wood that way. But after Cole's outburst, Derek showed zero anger. He studied Cole for a long moment, then suddenly started laughing. "Kid, that old lady you're talking about is my mother. And Max, while not blood-related, has been raised like an adopted son by me and your mother. After 20 years together, even a dog would have our affection. Let alone a person. You want us to just pick you over them. That's not happening so easily." Derek looked at his long-lost biological son. And though his words were firm, his eyes were surprisingly gentle, with just a hint of playful amusement. "Even if you don't care about our family, you came here for a reason. That proves we have something you want, so if that's the case, why not try taking it for yourself?" Derek glanced at Fiona, paused, then gently patted Cole's head. "Your mother loves you more than anything, never doubt that." Fiona's eyes immediately welled up with tears. Derek then ended the meeting. "All right, today's welcome party is over before it even started. Go get some rest. We'll see our guests out, then I'll introduce your older brother and sister." But that conversation with his siblings wasn't about to go smoothly, either. Heading downstairs, he found only his sister, Ruby Wood. She gave him a smirk and beckoned him over. "Call me Big Sis, let me hear it." Cole sat down, grabbing a bun. "Call me Little Bro, let me hear it." Sounds cheesy. Max and I were on a first-name basis. "Why would I get all chummy with you?" Footsteps suddenly echoed from the stairs. Cole's expression didn't change. "Probably because I'm the real deal, and Max is just the cheap knockoff." Ruby froze, her eyes darting to the stairs. Cole then slowly turned his head. And there on the staircase stood Max, his eyes red and swollen. He gave Cole one last wounded look before turning around and running off. Granny Wood cried out, "Max." But he was already gone. The old woman tried to chase after him herself, but someone caught her, holding her steady. "Granny, what are you doing? You can't be chasing people down the stairs at your age. Goodness. You're trying to give me a heart attack." The old lady trembled, slamming her hand on the railing. From halfway up the stairs, she pointed a finger right at Cole's face. "You curse. What are you doing freeloading in the Wood family? Who are you calling a knockoff? I'm the one who decides who's real. My precious boy is the real one. I want you out of this house right now. Granny, don't get so worked up. You don't want to trigger your illness again." The words cut through the chaos. The voice was incredibly calm, with no hint of sharpness. It had the same commanding presence Derek had last night. Cole looked up to see a man with long hair, his face hidden in the shadows, holding Granny Wood's arm. At first, it looked like he was supporting her, but he was actually restraining her, holding her steady, keeping her trembling body from collapsing. It wasn't until the butler rushed over to help the old woman upstairs that the man fixed his clothes and slowly descended. He had a cold, wild, almost feral energy. It wasn't until he was close that Cole realized this intense aura came from his very soul. One glance told you he was a man you did not mess with, Cole. His voice was ice, completely empty of emotion. It was like Derek's, but without even the thin layer of warmth Derek could fake. Cole met his gaze and gave a sharp nod. "I'm Cole, I'm Tom's, your older brother. Brother." The word was clipped and efficient. Ruby, sitting nearby, narrowed her eyes in pure annoyance and tapped the table. "Seriously, what's with the double standard?" No one paid her any attention. Instead, Tom sized Cole up for a long moment. "Have you ever thought an angry old person might actually tumble down the stairs?" Cole didn't even blink, staring right back at Tom. He replied calmly, "Never. Then you should probably start thinking about it." Tom didn't press it further. He left that chilling sentence hanging in the air, and then he took his seat. About 30 minutes later, the Wood family's core members were all finally gathered around the breakfast table. Derek sat at the head. Fiona and Tom were on his left and right. Since Cole just got back, he was given the special seat right next to Fiona. Across from him sat his uncle Barry. Further down was Ruby, with her Aunt Brenda sitting opposite her. Breakfast was just being served, but before anyone touched their food, Aunt Brenda fired the first verbal shot. "I had the kitchen make the bread Granny loves most." Guess that was a complete waste, huh? I mean, honestly. When someone gets an old lady so worked up she's stuck in bed, you have to wonder how they can sit here and eat so happily. The mood at the table instantly turned ice cold. Some just pretended not to hear a thing and started eating. But others couldn't let it slide. Didn't someone already bring her breakfast? Besides, Max is up there with her. She'll be fine. Another person shot back. "The biological grandson is back for one day, and he's already made her so angry she won't even come down. You call that fine?" Aunt Brenda's mocking continued. "And you dare bring up Max? Poor thing, just yesterday, he was the treasure of this entire family. The real son returns, and just like that, Max's position is gone. Now he can't even sit with us. He's stuck upstairs comforting the very woman the new son made sick. I'm just saying, as parents, you shouldn't be so biased." "Aunt Brenda," Tom finally spoke up. He was casually putting some porridge in his bowl. "Is the breakfast not good? Is that why you have so much time to chit-chat with my mother?" It was a sharp, sarcastic, and aggressive question. Yet Tom delivered it like he was just asking about the weather. Aunt Brenda snorted, slamming her chopsticks on the table. "What, can I not even speak anymore in this house? Tom, you've always been the reasonable one. What's gotten into you? Are you taking his side now, too? Is blood really all that matters here? Max has been following you two around for years, calling you brother and sister. How can you all be so unbelievably heartless?" Slam. A noise much, much louder than her chopsticks echoed through the room. It was Ruby. With a loud slam, she smacked her bowl on the table, glaring at Aunt Brenda. "Aunt Brenda, Dad hasn't even spoken. When did it become your turn to start? Lecturing my brother. Hearing this, Uncle Bari was finally forced to step in. Ruby, how can you talk to an elder like that? Does getting a real brother back suddenly give you such bad manners? What kind of nonsense is that? Fiona snapped. She couldn't hold back anymore. Cole has only been home for a few days. And you two just can't stand the sight of him. Who could stand him? Aunt Brenda shot back. The second he returns, he turns the entire house upside down. Does he think he's some god wrecking the heavens? Her voice shot up an octave. Is this what Cole wanted? Wasn't it your awful idea to tell Mom to hide the truth, to announce to everyone they were both her biological sons? If not for that, we could have explained everything to him clearly before he returned. None of this would be happening. How can you even defend him? The child you raised for 20 years, you just cast aside like he's garbage. What twisted logic is that? Toss aside, is an adopted son not our son? We cherish them both equally. How is it equal, turning a biological son into an adopted one is basically crushing Max's pride under your foot. Clink. For a third time, a sharp sound cut through the shouting. This time, it was Cole, setting his spoon down on his plate with a crisp, clean sound. He looked at Aunt Brenda across the table and said slowly, "So, that was your idea." Aunt Brenda, who was gearing up for another round with Fiona, suddenly went cold. The moment she met Cole's eyes, a chill shot straight down her spine. She completely forgot what she was about to say. Years later, she would still remember. That look, it was like a savage beast or a cruel god staring down at an ant. An ant that had just provoked it. Even the disgust in his eyes was ice cold. An indifference that struck fear right into her soul, but fear quickly turned to anger. A defensive rage at feeling so insignificant. He really was a monster. No wonder he'd turned the city upside down. He almost wiped out the entire Wood family. In the future, a gray-haired Aunt Brenda would be hiding abroad. She'd recount the story to her grandkids, endlessly cursing his very name. But she would always finish with a stark warning: if you ever see his descendants, stay far, far away. Who knows if that evil of his is genetic? None of them are good, but that was a story for another time. Right now, everything was still playing out over the Wood family's half-eaten breakfast. A breakfast that had been interrupted by one disaster after another. Even so, Cole's first breakfast with the Wood family ended without bloodshed. At least nobody threw a punch. After the meal, everyone in the family went their way. Cole, on the other hand, was immediately blocked by Ruby in the garden. "You've got quite a talent for making a scene, don't you?" she said. Cole just smiled back at her. "Your acting skills aren't too shabby yourself." Ruby smirked, but her eyes grew colder than ice. "I don't care what your plan is. Whether you're after the Wood family's money, their status, or their affection. That has absolutely nothing to do with me, but there is one unbreakable rule. Do not cause trouble for Tom," she warned him, her voice ice cold. "You've already made him clean up your mess twice, and those were small issues." Ruby warns him there will be plenty of chances to cause disasters later on. So since she has time now, she's giving him a heads up on the rules. Every single mess the Wood family kids create always lands right on Tom's desk. And she makes it clear she hates that, so he'd better stop causing trouble now. At the absolute least, he is not to bother Tom for anything. She asks if he can do that. "Little brother," the wind rustles the leaves as Cole just looks at the woman. He sizes her up from head to toe before slowly dropping his response. His diagnosis, "You're a brocon." Ruby's mouth twitches, desperate to argue back. But she swallows it, saying with impatience, "Just tell me if you understand." Cole just replies, "Oh, understood," seeing him suddenly become so compliant. Ruby is actually a little surprised, and her expression softens up quite a bit. "All right," she says, pulling a card from seemingly nowhere, "since you are my brother. Here is a welcome gift." The card has 2 million in it, just for him. Pocket money, she calls it, but then a cool voice asks what they're doing. Cole turns his head and sees Tom, Ruby's expression instantly becomes gentle. "Bro, are you heading to the office?" she asks. "He's not, he's going to the airport." "A business trip." Tom glances at her, but his gaze lands on Cole, waving him over. Cole obediently walks over, only to have another card shoved into his hand. This one has 5 million, also for pocket money. From now on, Tom will transfer 300,000 a month for his basic living expenses. Tom keeps it brief. Since Cole just got back, he probably doesn't know the family rules. In this family, they don't lack money, but they don't let their kids be leeches. Everyone has to earn their own money, whether starting a business or something else. If Cole needs startup capital, he can just go to Tom. Cole flips the card over. He asks about Max, wondering if he earns his own money. Tom says he hasn't graduated college yet, so there's no mandatory rule, but he is already working. He's interning at the company as a junior designer, making a little cash on the side. Tom then remembers Cole is only 20, so there's no immediate pressure for him. No pressure to work anyway. Then Tom seems to remember something important. This new biological brother and the fake one, Max, were born in the same year. And the same month. "Are you in college?" Cole just nods. "Which school?" "Imperial Capital University." Tom's indifferent gaze suddenly falters. Ruby, who just walked over, also freezes. She looks at him in total disbelief. "The Imperial Capital University in the capital." Cole gives her an odd look. "Is there another one in this country?" he replies. Tom watches him closely. A rare hint of a smile appears on Tom's face. What a coincidence, I guess. "We're alumni." He finally shows a spark of genuine interest in the conversation. He keeps asking questions as they walk along. "What's your major?" "A double major in fine arts and psychology." Tom stops again. Both are elite. Both are high-demand majors at ICU. The grades required must have been insane. "It's nothing special," Ruby mutters, rolling her eyes from the sidelines. "Summer vacation's almost over. When are you heading back to school?" she asks. But he isn't going back. He applied as an exchange student to River City University. And it was approved. He's staying in River City for the next semester. River City University is the top school in this city, though it can't beat ICU's national rank. It was still in the top 10, so Tom simply nodded. "Good, you can make some new friends." Coincidentally, Max also goes to River City. At that, Cole's expression went completely blank. Total silence. Tom looked right at him, adding, "If there's anything you don't understand, just go ask Max." Still nothing from Cole. "If you run into trouble," Tom went on, "you can ask Max to help you out." Cole remained a stone wall. Ruby chuckled beside them. "Wow, you really seem to hate Max." Cole just looked at them like they'd lost their minds. "And I shouldn't. You think I should like him." "Whether you should or not, I'd advise against it," Tom said with a calm tone. "With Grandma around, you're never kicking him out of this family. Not to mention Mom has adored him for 20 years. She is never, ever sending him away. So what? So hating him is pointless. It'll only make you miserable. But I'm not miserable. In this world, nobody forces me to swallow my pride, not people I like, and definitely not people I hate. Do you seriously think that with me here, Max is going to have a good life? Don't you worry, the one who ends up miserable in this house definitely won't be me. Goodbye." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving them watching him go. Ruby finally let out a sharp breath. That personality of his, it's a little terrifying, don't you think? Still, at least he won't get bullied, so that's good. The very next day, right on cue, Granny Wood and her little shadow Max began to make trouble. The moment Cole stepped through the door, he found the entire room packed with people. He silently took a seat next to Ruby, who immediately grumbled, "This is all your fault. You're always causing a scene. I barely got to the office before they called me back for an emergency family meeting." "A meeting about what?" he asked. "About you, obviously, whether you get to stay or you have to go." Granny Wood was already in the middle of throwing a massive tantrum. "If none of you will listen to me, then there's no reason for me to stay here as your mother." Derek, find me a new house this instant. I'll take Max and we'll move. Better than staying here and letting my own grandson anger me to death. And right on schedule, Max began his perfect, innocent act. Granny, you're the heart of this family, he said softly. How could you possibly leave? If brother doesn't like me, then I should be the one to go. I'm all grown up now. It's about time I learned to be independent. Please, you don't need to worry about me. The old woman caressed his face, her heart aching. How could I ever let you do that? My sweet Max has been spoiled since he was a child. You will always be my precious, little grandson. If they don't love you enough, then it doesn't matter. I will love you twice as much. Fiona tried to interject. We haven't abandoned Max, but was cut short by the old lady. Oh, really? Is this how you care for him? You let Cole bully him from our home to the streets, forcing him to just swallow all his pain. Is that what you call taking care of someone? Max quickly jumped in to play the hero. Granny, please don't blame Mom. My brother has suffered so much out there. It was so hard for him to finally come home. Mom is just trying to make it up to him. It's my own fault. I couldn't bear to leave you, or Mom and Dad, or my siblings. That's the only reason I shamelessly decided to stay. As he finished his little speech, actual tears began streaming down his face. The old woman looked absolutely devastated for him. Fiona quickly called for tissues. Tom handed them over, casually patting Max's head. You never need to feel shameless for staying in the Wood family, he said. You will always be Mom's son. Nobody is asking you to leave. Fiona immediately agreed. Wiping his tears as Max sniffled, looking up with complete gratitude. Brother, does this mean I'll always be your little brother, too? Cole coldly watched the soap opera unfold, scoffing to himself. This family was ridiculously good at acting, but their cheap tricks were never going to work on him. They were far too naive. He sat quietly beside Ruby, watching the circus. Max wept, playing the part of the understanding victim perfectly. Fiona and Granny argued, making the entire room incredibly tense. Ruby leaned closer and whispered, Are you honestly not the least bit jealous? Cole couldn't care less. He just glanced down at his phone as the argument reached its peak. A servant suddenly announced that Miss Sterling had come to visit. Chloe Sterling rolled in on her wheelchair, calmly proposing a huge business deal directly to Derek. They talked shop right there in front of everyone, securing the second young master's status in the family. Hearing this, Granny flew into a rage, pointing a finger at Cole and cursing. You rebellious brat, you think you can rely on a woman for support. Then get the hell out of here right now. The Wood family will never accept a shameless descendant like you. But then Fiona shot to her feet, glaring. Her eyes were burning red. She grabbed Cole, pulling him up to face the old lady. If my son is so terrible in your eyes, then maybe he and I should get the hell out of this Wood family together. After saying that, she glared at Cole. Bow your head and greet her. Have you no respect for your elders? Cole was a little confused, but he immediately did as she said. Fiona stood tall, her expression like ice. As for the divorce you mentioned. Fine, let's do it. I'll have the papers drawn up. The Wood family men stood there, stunned. They were completely frozen. Fiona then dragged Cole toward the stairs. Striding with absolute purpose, what are you standing there for? Go pack your bags. Cole dazedly answered, yes, while holding her hand tightly. This sudden warmth caught him off guard, stirring an indescribable feeling inside him. Seeing this chaos, Chloe Sterling regretfully announced the deal was off. But before leaving, she made absolutely sure to land one final blow. Granny Wood, you've misunderstood one thing. I'm willing to do all this. For Cole, not because he's a member of the Wood family, but simply because he is Cole. Watching Chloe leave, Cole was already calculating what to do next. This show was only just beginning. Let's see what else the Wood family tries to pull. A long moment passed before Granny finally understood what just happened. She clutched her chest, gasping for air again, and grabbed her son's hand. What does your wife mean by this? Is she actually planning a rebellion? But Derek's face was completely blank. You're the one who wanted this family torn apart." Ruby, who had been quiet, finally spoke up with a casual, bored tone. "Granny, I don't really want to become a child from a single-parent home. If the media finds out, they'll say you're a tyrant who drove away." Her own daughter-in-law and her biological grandson, what will people say? "How will you ever show your face again?" And Granny Wood promptly fainted. For the second time that day, now that things had gone this far, Uncle Bari's family didn't dare say another word and quietly slipped away. With everyone gone, the living room fell silent, leaving just father and son. Tom finally spoke up. "Dad, this proposal from Chloe Sterling, is it really reliable? She's a shark, one that devours everything. Would she actually let us see any of the profits, though the way she acts around Cole?" Derek simply shook his head before Tom could finish. "We'll wait and see." He then added, "You bought that villa next door years ago, right? Have your mother take Cole there for the time being." Back in his room, Derek stared at the luggage scattered all over the floor, sighing. Is she really going to divorce me over something like this? His first impulse was to say something sharp, but the memory of his son's cold expression and his wife's pleading demands made him soften his tone. "Cole, how about we move next door for a while, okay? I promise no one will be allowed to come and bother us." Cole gave a simple nod, and so Tom drove them personally, hauling all of Fiona's luggage over to the white villa next to their mansion. Tom glanced over at Cole, a confused look on his face. "Is this really all you have? I thought you studied art. Where are your tools, your old sketches, and all that stuff?" But Cole's expression was as icy as always. "I do have a lot, but it's all back at the orphanage. I wasn't sure I could bring it here." Hearing that, Fiona squeezed Cole's hand, her eyes instantly filling with tears. "You silly boy, of course you can bring them. This is your home now, you should keep your things here." But Cole just shook his head. "You're misunderstanding me. It's not that I was afraid to, it's that I wasn't sure you were qualified to be my family." The words hung in the air. Fiona froze. Ruby and Derek, who were helping, both stopped dead in their tracks. All eyes were locked on him as Cole continued, almost to himself. "My standards for family are very high. A place that hasn't earned my complete trust has no right to hold my precious things." The words barely left his mouth before Tom smacked him on the back of the head. He leaned in close, pressing his forehead against Cole's, staring straight into his eyes. "I don't know what kind of weird ideas you've got, but you are on my turf now. I will not let you say such arrogant things to break Mom's heart again." Then his entire demeanor changed, his voice becoming much softer. "So, tell me, what would it take for you to finally feel safe enough to bring your things here?" Cole considered it for a moment. "First, I'm not living in the main mansion. What if that old woman tries to throw me out again?" Tom straightened up. "Fine. You can have this house," but Cole just frowned at the offer. "Do I look like someone who just takes other people's property for no reason? Put the deed in Mom's name. And another thing, besides me and Mom, nobody enters without permission." And with that, he turned and headed straight upstairs. The four adults left behind could only stare at each other, completely baffled. Fiona covered her face. "This is all my fault. Why couldn't I recognize my own son back then? If it wasn't for me, Cole would never have turned out like this." Tom knelt down in front of her, gently holding her wrist. "Mom, it's not all bad. You have to see it. He might be defensive with us, but he's actually willing to trust you." Ruby quickly agreed. "He's right. Why else would he demand Tom give you the house? He'll only bring his things if you are here. And finally call this place his home." Derek just nodded in silence as Fiona looked up. Tears filled her eyes. "Really, is Cole actually willing to trust me?" Ruby wiped Fiona's tears away. "Honestly, this move is a really good thing for everyone." With Cole's personality, staying at the main house might have actually given Granny a heart attack. And with Max around, you could never completely take Cole's side. Because of that, he would never let his guard down. This is so much better. You can finally build that mother-son bond. Fiona's eyes brightened as she squeezed Ruby's hand. You're absolutely right. Ruby's shoulders slumped with a sigh. I think we've all figured it out. Cole is different. I always assumed kids from orphanages would be really timid or way too obedient, but after meeting him, she trailed off. She shook her head, her brow furrowed. His personality is far more complex than that. She then turned to Derek. Dad, what about the people you sent to investigate? What did they find? How did he really grow up? But just then, hurried footsteps echoed from the second floor. The conversation stopped dead. Cole burst into the hallway, peering down at them. For once, his face was lit up with pure excitement. I want the room by the big tree, bro. Hurry and give Mom the deed. I need to call the director to ship my things. Tom froze. That casual, happy bro hit him differently. He'd been called brother for years, but this time, this was something else. It was like this was the first time he'd ever truly been an older brother. On the way back, Tom pulled the car over. Dad, that question Ruby asked. I need to know the answer too. The results of the investigation were shockingly ordinary. Just as they thought, he grew up in the orphanage and never left. The only strange detail was that the orphanage had once received some funding from the city's wealthiest elites. Floral River County is a small town that survives on growing flowers. Years ago, a news story made it famous for being incredibly poor. That report attracted a flood of tycoon money. A few big corporations started charities there to polish their public image. The Wood family was one of them. Tom suddenly cut in, but I remember Floral River County. Something else happened there, didn't it? It was a huge scandal. Something about the girls at that specific orphanage. About 6 or 7 years ago, an artist named Seven blew up on Weibo. He was known for using incredibly detailed art to show real-life scenes. In just half a year, he gained over 5 million followers, who called him the 2D Doctor. It was then that Seven began publishing his one and only short comic series. The main characters were a group of kids living in an orphanage. And though the setup sounded sad, Seven's art style was delicate, even heartwarming. The orphans weren't portrayed as miserable or tragic at all. Instead, they were shown as lively, innocent, and absolutely adorable. Their story was woven with countless slice-of-life moments that were bittersweet. Even the simplest scenes could make readers laugh and cry. The updates were regular and highly anticipated until a major turning point, hinted at in Chapter 1. The arrival of a so-called philanthropist. The children had practiced singing, dancing, and reciting poems every single day just for him. When the rich benefactor finally arrived, the children's welcome was all prepared. Readers were glued to their screens, waiting for more funny or heartwarming moments. And they got them, but alongside the warmth, something felt off. A commenter posted, "Is it just me? Or was the chat between Kid A and that uncle super strange? Why would the rich guy refuse to talk to the director, insisting on seeing the kids alone? And why did Kid C suddenly have new, expensive clothes after only half a day? I've got a really bad feeling about this," the comic continued. And as the story went on, more creepy details were hidden just beneath the surface of their happy daily lives. Kids were often pulled aside for private chats with visiting uncles, returning with pricey gifts and new clothes. One child got sick out of nowhere, bedridden for days. Then another kid, while playing, accidentally showed countless bruises under his shirt. But otherwise, the comic kept its innocent tone. Life at the orphanage seemed warm and bright, but the comments section wasn't celebrating anymore. Everyone felt a chill. Some readers refused to believe it, desperately asking Seven what was going on, but the artist remained completely silent. The story just marched grimly forward, right until the final chapter dropped. A brand new character appeared, a stranger who looked like he'd gotten lost and wandered into the isolated orphanage. At first, he just played with the kids in the sunny yard. Surrounded by them, he drew some doodles on a wall. His day trip was almost over. Humming a song, he tossed a black go piece in his hand, ready to leave. But right before he left, he passed a dusty window and glanced inside. He stopped dead in his tracks. The bedsheets were a total mess, with flashy hair clips scattered around. A pile of children's clothes was crumpled on the floor. A small patch of skin was visible, absolutely covered in bruises. The stranger's eyes went wide as he crept closer to the dirty window. But before he saw the child, a pair of cloudy, dark eyes suddenly filled his entire view. The second-to-last panel of the comic was just one giant, terrifying eyeball. It completely blocked the peeling window frame. The pupil was a pinprick of rage and fear, its whites shot with blood, glaring at the man outside like an animal about to pounce. The very last panel was a single black go piece. It had fallen onto the dusty ground. Against a stark white background, a corner of the piece was silently chipped. And that's exactly how the story ended. But in the bottom corner of that last panel, one chilling line was written, based on true events, illustrated by Seven. Tom explained that the Wood family was tied up in it. "I remember it so clearly," he said. "It was probably the biggest scandal on the internet that year." The artist got millions of followers overnight. Police stations all over the country were flooded with reports. People desperately scanned the comic for clues, trying to find the real-life location. Then a hacker got involved and exposed the artist's IP address, pointing everyone's attention to Floral River County. The case went all the way to the top, and they immediately sent a special investigation team. The results of that investigation sent a shockwave through the entire nation's elite. Even the powerful Wood family took a major hit. As the memories came rushing back, Tom's face grew dark, back when it happened. "The orphanage Cole was in, not the same one, right?" Derek cuts him off. According to his investigation, Cole's orphanage was a complete wreck that rarely took in healthy kids. Most were disabled children, and most importantly, after finding Cole, he had a video call with director Sonny. A man who is absolutely not the type of person who'd ever get involved in that kind of trafficking. Hearing that, Tom's shoulders finally slump in relief. A long breath escapes. But Derek wasn't done. With a personality like Cole's, it's obvious it wasn't formed in some normal place. "I suspect there's a flaw in the report I received," he says coldly. "I'm having someone look into it again." Then he glances over at Tom. "You had a sudden schedule change today, right? Continue your business trip tomorrow as planned. Just leave all the matters here at home to me." Tom simply nods, starting the car and heading for the Wood mansion. 2 days later, the package Cole was waiting for finally arrived. The delivery guy is dripping with sweat under the brutal sun, while Cole just sits lazily in the shade, sipping iced water and looking completely zoned out. Someone once told him he was like a dandelion, born for the wilderness. A single gust of wind could scatter him across the globe, and when that wind stopped, he could take root anywhere at all. And though he hated that poetic nonsense, the person who said it understood him far too well, making it impossible to ignore. So now he feels a little unsure if he can really find the nourishment he needs in this gilded, golden land. And if he can finally have that happy, fulfilling life he's yearned for all these years. He leans back against the tree, lost deep in thought. Will my blood relatives in this family actually meet my expectations? Just then, a figure approaches. It's Max holding a parasol. "Brother," he says, "I heard Chloe Sterling took you to the Sterling family's private estate yesterday. Even Quinn Blake's never been allowed in there. You better be careful, or you'll get targeted for revenge. So, brother, are you actually ready to get engaged to Chloe? Even with her flawless background and skills, she's nothing but trouble." Max sighs. Honestly, if she hadn't gotten in that car accident, everything would have been fine. You wouldn't have even needed to come back here. Hearing this, Cole just lets out a short laugh. "If you're trying to say Mom and Dad only brought me back so you wouldn't have to suffer the burden of marrying a disabled woman, you can leave now." Max pretends he didn't hear him. "People in our circle are saying you're a jinx for making Mom move out. But don't worry, I defended you. You don't have to thank me, though. The delivery guy finishes up. Cole starts walking towards the iron gates, but Max sticks to him like glue, still nagging him endlessly. Right, brother, I came over to see Mom today. We spend time together like this every week. Sometimes we even learn to cook. You want to join? As soon as the words are out, Cole stops dead. He sees it then, that mocking, triumphant smirk on Max's face. He was expecting an explosion of fury and jealousy. But when Max meets Cole's eyes as freezing cold as ever, his smile stiffens. The very next second, the villa's iron gates slam shut right in his face. Max is stunned. He sputters, "What is the meaning of this?" Cole says nothing. He just gives him one last, empty look and turns away. And as they walked away, a twisted smile formed on Max's face. "You're the one locking me out from seeing Mom. Perfect. Thank you for handing me this golden opportunity." He sneered and closed his parasol. Once he went inside, Cole sat down. He sat on the sofa, watching the motionless figure under the blazing sun. Outside the gates, minutes ticked by, and Max started to feel dizzy. The relentless sun beat down, soaking his clothes and his hair in sweat. Every so often, he'd glance at Cole, who remained completely unmoving behind the glass. Max thought hazily, "Don't you dare come out and let me inside. Just keep watching like that. It's best if you wait until I get heatstroke." His vision blurred to almost nothing. Then, a subtle fear gripped him. A genuine fear gripped his heart. "I'm not actually going to die out here. Am I? How can he just stand there and watch me so calmly? Can a normal person not tell this is a guilt trip tactic he hasn't left the room to pretend he doesn't know? Is he not afraid of Mom and Dad's anger? Or is he actually hoping I die so he can finally be rid of me?" Under that brutal sun, Max shuddered. At this point, he just wanted to pass out. He just wanted it to be over, until he heard a faint door opening nearby. Then the screech of car brakes. A smile formed on Max's lips as he let go. He finally let himself fall into darkness. Just 1 minute earlier, Fiona awoke. She stretched and walked downstairs after having an incredible afternoon nap. Coming down, she saw Cole just staring blankly from his spot on the sofa. She followed his gaze outside and her pupils shrank. "Is that Max?" Cole just hummed. Fiona's voice went dry. "How long has he been standing out there?" she asked. Cole coldly checked his watch. 2.5 hours. Fiona bolted for the door. She hit the coffee table, lost a slipper, and scrambled towards the main entrance. As the villa door flew open, a sweltering wave of heat hit her face. She couldn't hold back, screaming "Max" in absolute agony at that exact moment. The figure trembled and collapsed backward, just as Ruby's car screeched to a halt. She rushed out of the car to pick him up. "He's burning up. Is this a fever? Or heat stroke? What on earth happened?" Fiona's lips were trembling now. She grabbed Ruby's arm, looking utterly helpless. Ruby just pursed her lips tightly. She carried Max and strode into the villa. The family doctor arrived quickly. After an exam, he confirmed it was heatstroke. The doctor frowned. "You all are far too careless. Young Master Max's constitution is already very weak. You absolutely cannot let something like this happen again." Fiona sat on the sofa. She kept applying ice packs to Max, her head hung low in complete silence. Dr. Liam couldn't help but shoot Cole a look, his lips pouting in disdain. But the next second, he was pinned in place by a pair of pitch-black eyes. Those pupils stared directly into the depths of his very soul. One look. It felt like his inner thoughts had been completely x-rayed. Cole didn't care. He shifted his gaze away a second later. Dr. Liam froze for 3 whole seconds. His fingers twitched, and then he fled like he was escaping a crime scene. With the outsider gone, only the Wood family members remained in the villa. The massive space fell into a heavy silence. Cole didn't speak a single word. Fiona didn't dare to, but Ruby finally couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed Cole's wrist and violently dragged him from the room while Fiona just watched. Fiona tried to call out, but in the end, she just turned away to look at the still unconscious Max. A single tear finally escaped. Cole was shoved roughly forward. He stumbled, nearly falling flat on the floor, and looked up at Ruby. "What do you think you're doing?" A sharp slap echoed, cutting him off. Ruby spoke coldly. "What am I doing? I should be asking what you were doing. I know you hate Max. Everyone in the Wood family knows it and puts up with it. But that doesn't mean we tolerate you abusing him like this. Do you want him dead?" Cole touched his cheek, his mind stalling for a moment before he finally replied. "Actually, he wanted to die himself. If you were the one locked outside under that sun, would you leave? Or would you just stand there waiting forever?" "Everyone knows it was a guilt trip tactic," Ruby sneered. "And even if you know it's a guilt trip, once his life is in danger, even with only a 1% chance, you're supposed to stop it. So what you're saying is, he wants to die, and the one at fault is the bystander." Ruby gritted her teeth. "He's not a stranger. He's the son our parents raised for 20 long years. The little brother Tom and I have called our own for 20 years. Do you know how long that is? Even a dog would be family by now. Not to mention he is 10,000 times more obedient and better behaved than you." Cole touched his cheek and tilted his head. "And what does that have to do with me?" Ruby's pupils shrank. She was utterly speechless. Cole just stared her down. "I told you yesterday, without my permission, no one enters this house. You all agreed. I'm just enforcing my own rules, which you all broke on the very first day." Ruby stepped forward, gripping his shoulders tightly. "Are you out of your mind? This is a human life. No matter how much you despise him, you can't." But Cole interrupted her. "If he doesn't even value his own life, what right do you have to force me to value it for him? By your logic, his suicide attempt is more normal than my inaction. Or did you actually mistake me for some good Samaritan?" Ruby fell silent for a long, long time. The grip on his shoulders only tightened. "Do you know who suffers the most when you act this way? Mom. She's been trying so hard to get closer, to make up for all the lost time, to love you. Yesterday, she chose you over the entire Wood family, but what did you show her today?" Cole's gaze wavered just slightly. "You made her watch her own two sons trying to kill each other. Do you have any idea how cruel that is for a mother? Do you understand?" Under the blazing sun, Ruby stood in the blistering heat, with temperatures this high. "Can you even imagine standing out here for 2.5 hours?" As soon as she said it, something clicked. Ruby realized she had only been standing there for a few minutes and was already burning up, but Cole was different. He showed no reaction. His skin was actually cold to her touch. Cole spoke first. "You consider this a high temperature. In Floral River County, the average summer temperature is 40 degrees Celsius, 104 Fahrenheit. The orphanage had no AC. No electric fans." He let out a soft laugh. 2.5 hours. "I lived in that kind of heat for 17 summers. How exactly do you calculate that?" He forcefully shoved Ruby's hands from his shoulders. Then, holding his own cheek, he stared at the woman in front of him. "You hit me. The last time I was hit was 10 years ago." Ruby's fingers twitched. Her brain was screaming that she had done nothing wrong. But another feeling flooded her heart, making her very fingertips tingle. The same fingers that struck him felt numb. Cole stepped closer, looking up at her. "I should demand 10 times the payback," he said, "but since we're blood, I'll let it slide, but this is the only time. Don't you dare lay a hand on me again, Ruby. Wood. I didn't come here begging for some cheap family affection. You have no right to preach to me from your moral high ground." And with that, he turned. He walked right into the villa, pausing for a moment when he passed the sofa. Fiona still hadn't looked up. He stared at her back and said flatly, "When he wakes up, tell him to get the hell out of my house. Also, if there's a next time, I will make the exact same choice. Tell him if he's not afraid of dying, he's more than welcome to try again." Fiona flinched. Cole didn't even look back. He just walked straight upstairs. On the sofa, the one who was secretly awake could no longer keep up the act. Max slowly opened his eyes, meeting Fiona's gaze. Seeing her worried face, he asked softly, "Mom, are you really going to stay here forever?" Does this mean I won't even be able to see you once in a while? Fiona simply held his hand, not saying a word. Silent tears fell onto Max's face. At that moment, Ruby walked in, catching the sight of Max's tear-streaked face. Sister. Thank you for earlier. I honestly thought I was really going to die. Ruby first helped Fiona sit up, then shot a cold look down at Max. If so, why? Did you wait outside for so long? I thought he would definitely open. The door, tears poured down his face, but Ruby remained completely unmoved. In fact, she even cracked a slight smile. He just humiliated you at the party. And you still thought he'd show you kindness. Max, I never realized. Until now that you're one to repay evil with good. Max's smile froze solid. Panic began to creep in, along with a sudden, sharp resentment for Ruby. Without thinking, he grabbed Fiona's hand tightly. Mom, I was just so emotional. At the time, I wasn't thinking. Please just come home with me, I will. Beg Grandma to let brother stay. I'm so scared. At the very least, don't live alone with him. Let my big brother or Ruby move in with you. Fiona gave him a puzzled look. Max immediately avoided her gaze, looking down and clutching at his own shirt. It isn't that I want to speak ill of him, but I think his personality is really dangerous. I know I'm only the adopted son, and I have no right to say these things. But I just can't help but worry about you. You know how Grandma is, her temper isn't the best, but she truly loves us. But brother came back and made her faint twice, and you had to move out. I'm just so terrified. He looked up, his face a mess of tears. It's not that I'm afraid that you all won't want me anymore. I'm afraid my happy home of 20 years will be completely shattered because of this. We were so happy before. I wanted to share this happiness with him, but why is it proving to be so hard? Those words struck Fiona's mind like a bolt from the blue. She sat frozen. After a long moment, she gently patted Max's head. Max, Mom has wronged you. Hearing this, Max looked up with eyes full of sudden hope. Are you agreeing to come back home with me? Fiona paused, and then shook her head. Max was utterly devastated. But Mom, I'm really worried. That's exactly why. His mother needs to be by his side to figure out just why. His personality became this way. A sad smile crossed Fiona's face. Her voice was soft. Max, you are a good boy. Thank you for understanding and for wanting to accept Cole and have him accept you, but… Max, she sighed with melancholy, Cole should have been here with the Wood family to experience those 20 years of happiness. Max froze as if struck by lightning. Even the pleading look in his eyes turned to ice. Fiona just smiled bitterly. Just see me as a foolish, confused mother dealing with a rebellious child and choosing to protect him instead of disciplining him. I truly am useless, but this is the only way I can think of. With that, she stood up. Max, I will have your sister take you home. Unless it's vital, don't come here anymore. Cole holds a huge grudge against you. Even if he hurts you, it will be very hard for me to get you justice. So please, protect yourself. Max could hardly process what he was hearing. His mouth twitched uncontrollably. Mom, what do you mean? I mean I am just a useless mother trying her best to earn her son's favor. She glanced at Ruby. Kids, if you truly want what's best for me, stop coming here and creating more chaos. She then walked directly upstairs. Max sat in a daze for a long time, then turned to Ruby in utter shock. Sister, Mom, but Ruby was even more flabbergasted than he was. When I had my rebellious phase, she never said anything like that. Talk about double standards. Have you heard? The third son of the Wood family, the one who humiliated Queen Blake, made Max stand in the sun till he fainted. Today, I heard Aunt Fiona had a massive argument with the old lady. She not only moved Cole from the main house, but asked CEO Wood for a divorce. This new third son is totally unhinged. Is there no one that can control him? What about Tom and Ruby? Aren't they both supposed to be super competent? How can they not handle one newcomer? News about Cole had flooded River City. The gossip was spreading like wildfire through high society chats. Derek and Tom knew. They knew exactly what was happening, but neither one uttered a single word. In fact, Derek issued a gag order on the main mansion, forbidding anyone from telling Granny Wood that Max had fainted, with his command, Aunt Brenda didn't dare make a sound. The moment Max got back to the main house, he received a call from Derek. Do not let the situation between your grandmother and Cole get any worse. Besides making your grandmother sick with fury, it will have zero actual impact on Cole. Derek's tone was sharp and blunt. I'm assuming you don't want to completely lose your grandmother as your backer, correct? Max gripped his phone so tight. His knuckles turned white. He bit his lip, choking back tears. Dad, why are you treating me like this? Is bloodline truly that important? Can it make you treat me like a complete stranger in a single night? In the past, Max never would have dared to speak to him this way. He was spoiled his whole life. But after being scolded by Derek a few times, he learned his lesson. He never dared to raise his voice to him. This was likely the first time. Max was practically bawling now. I have called you Dad for 20 years. For 20 years, he was their son. You've barely met him, and you're threatening me because of him. But Derek's reply was cold. It's advice. Derek's voice on the phone was ice, showing zero sympathy for Max's breakdown. Perfectly calm, he continued, like you said, even if the blood ties are fake. 20 years of family life isn't. That's exactly why I want you to have a happy future. But Max couldn't believe it. Biased towards Cole, yet you want me happy. Do you know heatstroke can kill? He sobbed, completely breaking down. Do you have any idea what I thought before I collapsed today? I wish that if I died right there, it would be a relief. Then I wouldn't have to live in fear of everyone. The pain was unbearable, so uncomfortable. In my whole childhood, I've never suffered like this before. On the other end, a long pause, then a sigh. Derek finally responded, his voice heavy. The fact that you can still say this to my face proves you're clinging to some wild hope. Hope that even the entire Wood family will choose you over Cole. I don't, Max denied weakly. Whether you do or not, change your thinking right now, Max. That is never going to happen. Not while I'm around. The Wood family will never, ever make that choice. Derek's voice was like steel, completely unwavering, so get a grip. Coexist peacefully with him. Let him live peacefully with your grandmother. That is the only path back to peace in this family. If you can't do that, then at least stay out of trouble. Otherwise, the only one who pays the price in the end is you. Why? Max was so stunned he forgot to cry. He muttered, why are you doing this to me? Why so ruthless? The only ruthless one is me. Max, change your mindset. You can keep being the pampered young master of the Wood family. Then Derek hung up, but not before delivering one final blow. Don't break your mother's heart. The line went dead. Max just stood there, staring at his phone, stunned, before he slowly turned to Ruby in the driver's seat. Sister, isn't Cole the one breaking Mom's heart? Ruby just watched him. She looked at his face. For so many years, she only knew her little brother's usual obedient, or maybe slightly arrogant, self. This was the first time she'd ever seen him cry with such utter despair. Her anger began to fade. She grabbed a few tissues, handing them over before looking away. You both broke Mom's heart. But with Cole, Mom is carrying an endless amount of guilt. Just like you said, you had 20 happy years. She wants you to share that happiness with Cole. But that happiness was supposed to be Cole's from the start. You only had it because of a mistake. Compared to you, who knows how Cole grew up to develop a personality like this? Of course, that's what breaks her heart more. And then it hit him. A wave of regret flashed in his eyes. I shouldn't have said that, he thought. A bitter realization. I tried to use Mom's memories and completely forgot that those are exactly the things Cole never had. I just handed him the perfect victim card. So unlucky, but still, Max lowered his head, whispering, but if he could develop such an arrogant personality, doesn't that prove he lived pretty well these last 20 years? If someone wasn't spoiling him, how could he turn out like this? Ruby had no answer for that. she just told him to wipe his tears. All right, that's enough. You're not well. Thinking too much about this will only make things worse. Go get some sleep. And with that, they entered the wood mansion. Meanwhile, Derek hung up the phone, his eyes lifting to take in the building. Floral box, he muttered under his breath. Just then, an old man emerged from inside. Derek straightened his tie and strode forward with purpose. He extended his hand with a surprising amount of respect. You must be Director Sonny. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I'm Derek Wood, Cole's biological father. The powerful CEO of River City actually bowed slightly to the shorter old man. His voice was calm and sincere. You can just call me Derek, but as expected. The kind-looking old director didn't immediately respond, the man's eyes, hidden behind his glasses, sized Derek up from head to toe. Then he let out a scoff. You're late, a father like you. I doubt you'll earn Eleven's trust in this lifetime. Derek, having just stood up straight, felt the verbal jab. For a moment, his usually calm heart actually skipped a beat. His secretary, standing just behind him, frowned at the remark. He shot a sharp glare at the arrogant old director in all his years with the boss. He'd never heard anyone speak to him with such disrespect. He knew this trip was about investigating the young master's past and a father humbling himself. For his son was understandable, but why did the director talk as if the third young master was the one holding all the cards? It was ridiculous. But Director Sonny didn't push the topic. He just patted the heads of two kids hiding behind him. Then he looked over at the guard post, wanted to go inside for a look. 11 always loved hanging out in there. Derek was caught off guard, but the two children suddenly lit up with excitement. Is 11 coming back, Grandpa? When? Is 11 coming home? I have a new drawing to show him. Director Sonny ruffled their hair gently. Didn't I tell you? 11 probably won't be back for a long, long time. Then when will he be back? The children's faces fell in disappointment. I still want him to teach me how to write. Well, that all depends on what kind of person this gentleman right here is. Following the director's gaze, the kids looked up at Derek. Director Sonny stared directly into Derek's eyes. He sighed with a slight smile. If this mister is a good father, it might be a very long time before 11 returns. But if this mister is not a good father, then 11 might be back very, very soon. The children blinked, utterly confused. Then they both grabbed onto Derek's pant legs. Mister, can you please be a bad father? We really want 11 to come back. Before the CEO could even process how to handle these bold kids, Director Sonny shooed them away. Watching their small forms run off, Derek spoke. The children here seem to really like Cole. The director let out a hearty laugh. Of course, every single kid in this orphanage adores him. Derek was quiet for a second before replying. It seems there's a huge difference between his life here and his life with the Wood family. Director Sonny paused, then threw his head back laughing. Don't tell me you actually thought he was some obedient, perfect kid here, the flawless older brother. Is that what they think? Of course not. 11 isn't the kind of person to change himself just to fit in somewhere. The director looked toward the empty field where the kids had run off and pointed with his chin. Those two from just now, the one learning calligraphy from him. In just 1 year, he made that kid cry no less than 10 times with his harsh feedback. And there are kids like that all over this place. At this orphanage, there isn't a single kid who hasn't been brought to tears by him. Hearing this, Derek and Secretary Feng could only stare at the old director. His face was filled with absolute pride. For a moment, they were both speechless. You mentioned Cole liked to stay in the guard booth, right? That's right. Director Sonny then began to lead them towards it. We didn't have one at first. Later on, we got funding for upgrades. That's when it was built, but it was abandoned after a few years. Since then, 11. Just loved to sneak inside. The tiny booth had one large window. It offered a perfect view of the people coming and going outside the gate. Stepping through that narrow door, Derek was stunned. The booth looked so tiny. Almost rundown from the outside, but inside there was a delicate little desk. It matched the window's height, beside a large, soft, though very old sofa. The place was spotless, like someone lived there daily, but the most captivating part wasn't any of that. The most incredible thing was the sight on the walls. An endless ocean of flowers blooming across the peeling paint. They were so real. So lifelike that for a split second, Derek felt like he had actually stepped into a forest of flowers. But then he snapped back and looked closer. He realized they were all drawings, not done with acrylics or spray paint. No, these were drawn with colored pencils, from the floor all the way up. Countless flowers intertwined, almost looking like they were swaying in a silent wind. Blooming endlessly in this cramped space, it felt like you could almost hear it. Hear the breeze rustling through them. 11 drew all of these, the director said. He walked to the desk, bending to pull an old, worn notebook from a drawer. After this place was abandoned, 11 volunteered to be the security guard for a while. His job was to write down the names and phone numbers of any outsiders. Let me find it. He flipped through the book, then held it open. He pointed at the written lines. Here, he started right from this spot. The boy filled out the entire second half. It was during that time that he turned this place into this. Scared the daylights out of me, actually. Derek took the notebook. On the yellowed pages, names and numbers were written. In all kinds of colored pencils, page after endless page, and for some reason. Derek just kept flipping. Amid the rustling sound of the paper, it was as if he could see him, a small boy sitting right by that big, open window, handing a notebook and a pencil to every person who came through that gate. Please register your name and phone number. Thank you. A floral scent drifted. It came through the window, flipping the pages. The sound was like soft waves. Drowning out that phantom figure in the sun, Derek finally closed the notebook. He suddenly asked a question. Can I have this? Director Sonny paused. He froze, then smiled and simply shook his head. You have plenty of time to create your own brand new memories with him. Leave these little things for me. For an old man to remember, he took the book and put it back carefully. Every single mark 11 left here is precious. Even the other children will protect and clean everything he left, so please don't say things like that again. In the future, the kids will only get anxious. Come on, let's go. We can talk in my office. This place, Floral Box, wasn't always called that. In the office, the old director and Derek were chatting. This place was once called Blue Sky. Orphanage, once we secured funding, we had the chance for a new name, the name Floral Box. That was 11's idea. The old man walked with his hands behind him, greeting the children running past with a warm chuckle. I still remember that day perfectly. Some reporters came for an interview and brought up renaming the whole orphanage. The cameras were all poised to capture the kids playing sweetly under the trees. Look right over there, Director Sonny pointed to a towering pear tree. It was springtime. The pear blossoms were in full bloom. All the other kids were trying their best to come up with a name, throwing out endless suggestions. Only 11 seemed bored by it all. He was just in a corner, tinkering with something, just as everyone was about to get into a massive fight. Somebody finally asked him. He looked up and said, "Don't call it an orphanage. This is my home inside a flower box. Just call it Floral Box." He held up a wooden box in his hands and flipped open the lid. The wind and sun rushed past, carrying countless pink and white petals, scattering them all over his head and face before they floated off towards the distant hills. A box full of flowers. Someone laughed, pinching his nose. Comparing yourself to a flower, little 11, aren't you shameless? You're the shameless one. I just like the name. The boy dodged the older kid's hand, falling back onto the grass. The petals he had collected for who knows how long continued to fly out from the box. They caught the sunlight on his hair and cheeks before being whisked away into the sky. I didn't think that memory would still be so sharp after all these years. The director gazed at the tree fondly for a moment, then led Derek onward. Suddenly, it felt like another powerful gust of wind had just blown past. And yet everyone's clothes remained perfectly still. It wasn't until Secretary Feng gasped in absolute shock that Derek felt it too and turned his head. The image from the director's memory had materialized right before his eyes. A wall bathed in warm sunlight, but within that wall, the wind howled through an endless sea of flowers filling a perfect blue sky with dancing petals. And let me tell you, Derek had been to countless auctions, judging top-tier art with an intensely critical eye, but this was undeniably a masterpiece worthy of global fame. There might be many artists who can paint a field of flowers, but to make every single flower, every single gust of wind pulse with such vibrant, raw life, making it hard to tell illusion from reality at first glance, artists with that kind of skill could be counted on one hand, and such an incredible painting was just casually left on a cracked old wall, yet the old director and the kids didn't even break their stride. While walking past, it was proof the painting had completely merged into this place. It had become a presence as familiar and natural as breathing. Noticing that they had slowed, the director turned back, forgot to mention 11 painted. This too, to prove his name was the best, that kid painted flowers all over the orphanage. You can't tell from the outside, but anyone who's ever visited here knows our floral box is quite literally a box overflowing with flowers. Swish. The director pushed open his office window and sat on the guest sofa. Now then, let's chat. You suddenly appearing here without any warning. What do you want to know? Derek sat down opposite him, his eyes on the empty teapot, and said flatly, everything about Cole's past. The old director simply snorted in response. You didn't come right after learning his identity. You waited. Did Cole cause some trouble at your home you can't solve? There is nothing in the Wood family that I can't handle. I just felt his upbringing might be special, so I came to learn more. In other words, you feel you can't control the boy, right? The old director didn't pull his punches. If Cole's behavior was perfectly normal, you never would have made this trip. Am I wrong? I won't deny it. If he were a child I could read instantly, I wouldn't need to come here to imagine his past. Such an arrogant father. The director's face showed disapproval. But then a sly smile crept onto his lips. But unfortunately, Cole and the word normal are total opposites. Forget a stranger like you who's only known him for days. Even I, who raised him for a decade, wouldn't dare say I completely get him. Over a decade. Derek raised an eyebrow. I thought you found him when he was still in a bassinet. The old director, who had been so sharp and critical, suddenly lost his smile. After a long silence, he said in a low tone, I was the one who found him, but I wasn't here the whole time. When he was 6 or 7, my own son passed away. The shock was too much, so I resigned as director and moved away with my wife. I didn't come back for 3 years. The old director's stooped body hunched over as he covered his face. That is the single decision I regret most. Before I left, little Cole could communicate just fine and was perfectly healthy. But when I got back, he was just skin and bones, barely looked human, and refused all communication with anyone. Derek's pupils contracted violently. The news about that floral box orphanage incident flashed through his mind. For a second, he almost shot up from his seat. Thankfully, the old director noticed his expression and quickly clarified, it's not what you're thinking. This had nothing to do with that scandal. With his heart still racing, Derek fought down a wave of dizziness and forced himself to stay calm. Please continue. It was typical bullying you find in any orphanage. The old director's expression turned bitter. Mr. Wood, you must know that people who are too different in a crowd usually face one of 2 treatments. Either everyone gathers around them, or they get completely isolated. And what little Cole went through in those 3 years was the latter. But he is someone who holds a grudge and refuses to lose. If he was bullied, he would strike back in the exact same way, if not 10 times worse, but Cole is too smart. His methods of revenge, in the eyes of the director back then, transformed him into a literal little devil, so eventually it wasn't just the kids. Even the director and the teachers treated him as an object they could torment at will. No matter how clever he was still just a boy. One side was the entire orphanage, the other was Cole, who refused to bow his head. This bitter war lasted for 3 years. By the time I came back, he had become completely shut off, unable to speak to anyone. The laughter of children from downstairs sounded distant, like an echo from another world. In the glaring afternoon sun that poured through the window, Derek sat in complete silence, a statue frozen in time. That's all I can tell you about those 3 years. I don't know the full story. I returned far too late. What happened next? Did his condition improve? So you returned. At least he wasn't being bullied anymore, right? Director Sonny managed a bitter smile. It took a very, very long time, he confessed, for him to even call me Grandpa again. Derek suddenly remembered something. He said he knocked you out with a concussion. Before he called you Grandpa, the director froze. That little brat, why? Did he have to mention that? He touched his thinning hair, looking a little embarrassed. Well, it's not like I ever held any authority over him, anyway. When he was little, he loved pulling on my beard, so I had to shave it off. Derek leaned in slightly. It seems like he really put you through a lot. It's not your turn to play the parent yet. The director's expression soured again. When? I was cleaning up his messes. You didn't even know he existed. Derek had no reply. But then the old man's shoulders slumped, and he rubbed his nose in defeat. Then again, I've got no right to lecture you, if you call me his family. I was extremely negligent, too. Besides those 3 years I was gone when he was 14, I let him run away from home for an entire year. I looked for him for a year and found nothing. In the end, he came back on his own. That night, Derek stayed at Floral Box. This was completely off script. He was meant to be on a first-class flight back to River City for a critical company meeting. A meeting for the next morning, but everything he heard in that office today was simply too astonishing. By the time he snapped out of it, he told Secretary Feng to cancel it. Should I book a hotel then? Floral Box County only has one 5-star hotel, and the facilities are lacking. I'm afraid you won't be satisfied. We will need to hire a premium cleaning service to prepare it. Secretary Feng was already searching for one on his phone, you see. Don't let Derek's calm, untouchable CEO persona fool you. He was notoriously picky about his living arrangements. He had 3 personal lifestyle assistants on rotation, and their notes detailing his habits were practically encyclopedias. And yet, this very same Derek Wood stood under the orphanage's dilapidated eaves. He looked up at the falling dusk and suddenly announced, "No need. I'm staying here tonight." Secretary Feng, despite his incredible professionalism, couldn't hide his absolute shock. "Are you sure, sir? The conditions here are probably..." But Derek just turned to look at Director Sonny, who had just stepped outside. "Can I stay here for a night?" The director paused. He stroked his non-existent beard, then gave a reluctant nod, so Derek pushed his luck. "Then can I take a walk around the orphanage tonight?" The director just huffed. He stomped off like a grumpy old ox, without saying a single word. "I'll take that as a yes," Derek muttered. He sent Secretary Feng off and began his solo exploration of Floral Box. That night, all 4 members of the Wood family had trouble sleeping. Derek was exploring the orphanage in the pitch dark. He got 0 sleep. Ruby kept jolting awake from nightmares filled with the sound of slaps. Fiona tossed and turned in the next room, stuck between crying and smiling. Tom lay in his hotel bed in another city, hands behind his head, thinking about the chaos that erupted at home. He didn't manage to get any sleep until the sun came up. Ironically, the cause of all this sleeplessness, our main character, hit the pillow and was out cold, not one dream. The next day, trying to apologize, Ruby took him to her company for a visit. Model Ruby was a top-tier star, but the only gossip about her was one recurring headline: breaking up with her boyfriend, Quinn. So over company lunch, a coworker saw her chance to finally ask his assistant, Lily, what was going on. So why do they keep breaking up just to get back together? Lily looked awkward, nervously chewing her chopsticks before she finally spoke up. You have to keep this a complete secret. Do not tell Ruby I told you. The coworker eagerly nodded, and then Lily spilled all the details. Apparently, Quinn knew Ruby's background, but her status as the Wood family's second daughter brought absolutely no perks to their relationship. In fact, it just made Quinn feel deeply insecure. Although her parents were open-minded, they were still old money elites at heart. And while they let their kids date freely, they absolutely refused to let Ruby marry an actor. So even though Ruby was dating for marriage, her parents refused to even meet Quinn. It wasn't malicious or hateful. It was just that casual disregard adults have for kids. The inherent ignorance of the rich towards regular people. The message was simple. I know you're serious now, so I won't interfere, but picking your life partner at this moment is unrealistic. Wait a few years. If you're still dead set on marriage, then come talk to me. Until then, there's no need to meet. That single message was enough to cause their first breakup. After that, Ruby fought like hell to get him back, but the root problem was never solved. The Wood family's firm stance was a huge wall between them, causing Quinn to ask for a breakup over and over, only for Ruby to stubbornly win him back each time. I guess they just got used to it, Lily said. Actually, at one point, Ruby couldn't take it anymore and had a massive fight with her family. She even threatened to cut all ties. Her friend's eyes suddenly went wide. She ran away, so what happened next? Lily was startled by her sudden excitement. She stammered, well, then Quinn took her in for a while. That was probably their happiest time together. But then the eldest brother met with Ruby just once, and she went right back home. What a complete brocon, the coworker muttered to herself. But there's more, Lily continued. Ruby going back had already put their relationship on ice, but then the third young master, Max, went to find Quinn and said some awful things. And Quinn broke up with Ruby. Again, Lily could still see that scene so clearly. The young master of the Wood family, dressed in clothes that were casual but screamed money, stood haughtily in front of Quinn and began to speak. His attitude was just unbearably dismissive. My parents and my sister are polite. They don't want to hurt you, Mr. Blake, but I thought you were a mature adult who understood how this world actually works. But seeing you drag this out with my sister for so long, I realize I was mistaken. But that's fine. If you don't understand, I'll just spell it out for you. Mr. Blake, do you even know my sister's starting line? Max stood before the famous actor Quinn, adjusting the lapel of his sponsored suit. My sister's starting line is the very position you exhausted your entire life to reach in the entertainment industry. And yet, the clothes you're wearing now still aren't as expensive as our maids' uniforms. Sure, you make good money, but the car you drive is an absolute joke. It's worse than what our auntie uses for grocery runs, and as for the caliber of men, my sister has been around her whole life, you wouldn't even comprehend it. Let's just say it's a level where even if you hit the absolute peak of your career, in the entertainment industry, you'd only be qualified to stand there and put on a little song and dance for their amusement. But my sister, no matter how much she loves acting, she will never be a monkey in a cage. Performing right alongside you, she will always be the VIP in the front row, watching your little show without a care. Do you get it now, Mr. Blake? Or are you going to keep pretending, trying to drag her from her seat onto the stage? To play the clown with you, all for this so-called love of yours. Blake just sat there, jaw slack, his spoon hanging right out of his mouth. Did Max really just say something that coherent? Those words felt so out of place. It wasn't the Max he thought he knew, had his personality just completely crumbled the second he learned about him. Did he actually get dumber? Lily was just as shocked. Is that really your only reaction? What else is there? Blake shot back, don't you think Quinn is the one to pity? Lily just sighed. If it wasn't for the Wood family, they wouldn't have had so many problems. She looked like a true fan of their love story, visibly deflating as she spoke. Because of that, Master Max got a vicious scolding from Ruby, but nothing changed. Quinn just smiles a lot less now. They've broken up and gotten back together a few times since then, but I feel like he never got over what Master Max said. That's why he's always in so much pain. Weird, if it hurts that much. Why not just end it for good, he asked, but Ruby refuses to let go. And Quinn, does he still love her? Of course, but if they loved each other so much, why couldn't they just stand strong together, the Wood family? Said to wait a few years for a chance, but that felt like an empty promise. Just look at them refusing to meet. They're never going to agree, he thought. Then why not make it a clean break? Lily was about to tear her hair out. Forgetting he was her boss's brother, she just clutched her head in frustration. Stop messing with me. I'm not. I am genuinely curious, he insisted. She had no answer. After a long pause, she mumbled, "Love isn't that simple. I don't know how things get so complicated that two people just break up and get back together just to suffer." He saw it differently. I only know this. If I find someone I truly love, I don't care if the entire world objects or curses us. I absolutely would not blink. If I loved someone, I would never give up. Not for any reason, and if anyone made her doubt me, I'd make absolutely sure. She never, ever thought for a second that I didn't love her enough. If I loved someone, I'd suffer through anything, any torment, just to see her happy. So this endless cycle of breaking up and getting back together for years on end. Ultimately, it all comes down to one simple thing: they just don't love each other enough. They'd rather soak in misery for years than make a real choice. They won't end it, but they also don't have the guts to stand and fight together. It's just pure self-torture. Lily was completely stunned by his passionate speech. It took her a long moment to mumble, "Hearing you talk like that kind of makes me date him." "Sorry," he replied. "I'm afraid you'd have a hard time making me fall for you." He was instantly embarrassed. "Sorry, I misspoke. I didn't mean it like that. It's not you. I just have a bit of an issue." Lily was dying to know what his issue was, but he had no intention of explaining. After lunch, the day sped by. Cole continued to follow Ruby on her schedule for a few days. Then, during a variety show recording, he unexpectedly ran into an old face, the Go champion, Tara. Turns out even Derek was a fan. The woman under the black umbrella smiled. "Why aren't you looking up at me, or did you get a new sister and just toss the old one aside?" The keyword triggered something. Ruby's gaze snapped towards Tara, her face instantly forming the polite smile of a top star. "Miss Tara knows my brother." Tara just chuckled. "Your brother?" She turned back to Cole. "You actually have a biological sister. Don't tell me you have biological parents too." Ruby could hear the sharp provocation and chilling malice in her tone. The polite smile vanished. "It seems Miss Tara and my brother have quite a history." "History?" Tara mused. "I suppose you could call it a cursed destiny instead." The woman smirked. "Otherwise, why wouldn't he even dare to look me in the eye? Until now, right?" Cole would. At this, Cole let out a long breath and looked up, staring right at her. "Who says I don't dare look at you?" Before Ruby could move, Tara leaned right into his face. "Then why didn't you remember your big sister? It's been years after all. Do you still hate me that much, or do you not want to look at this face and be reminded of her?" She tilted her head slightly toward Ruby. "Miss, has he ever called you sister?" Ruby, still holding his umbrella, just raised an eyebrow and smiled calmly. "If he doesn't, what else would he call me? So you broke your promise?" Tara took 2 steps back, shoving her hands deep in her pockets. She looked at Cole. "You said you'd only ever have one sister in this lifetime. Or do promises just lose their value once the person is dead?" Hearing this, Cole burst out laughing. "Why are you acting like you had such a great relationship with her, putting on some show for justice? Need me to remind you, when she was alive, how terribly did you treat her? How cold were you? How many times did she reach out, only to be met with your icy shoulder? Now you come crying to me playing the good sister. Isn't that an Oscar-worthy performance? A sudden flash of lightning ripped through the sky, briefly illuminating Tara's pale face. Her mouth twitched, almost like a smile. But she stopped talking to him. Instead, she turned to Ruby. You know what? Before this, we were all very curious if Cole's biological parents actually existed, because we thought a monster like him couldn't possibly be born from humans, or that if he did have a family, they must all be psychopaths. You should be careful. The last person Cole called sister was taken out by his own hands. The genius then walked away with her umbrella. Her silhouette looked as solemn as if she had just come from a funeral. Soaked from the rain, Cole went straight upstairs to shower as soon as they got home. Ruby handed Tara's autograph to Derek, who had just arrived. Cole seems to know Tara. Her attitude today was awful. She even called Cole a. Ruby glanced at Fiona, her voice trailing off. Fiona froze, then laughed. What do you think I am? A fragile flower that can't take a hit? Monster. The word escaped Ruby's lips, a dark cloud passing over her eyes. She also said he caused a death, someone he once used to call his sister. Fiona's forced smile instantly froze solid. Ruby stared intently at Derek. Dad did you really investigate Cole's past? What on earth did he go through? However, Ruby got no answer. Instead, Derek just shooed her off to take a shower. While arranging flowers, Derek said to Fiona, I thought you were trying to have your cake and eat it too. You're feeling uneasy about this, aren't you? I really thought I could. Fiona leaned her head right on Derek's shoulder, looking a little sad. But Cole keeps forcing me to choose. I can feel it. Whether it's causing a scene, being disrespectful to Mom, or even locking Max outside the other day, it's all intentional. He just wants to see who I'll choose, him or Max. Then there's nothing I can do. Fiona lowered her voice, a clear hint of complaint in it. I can only choose him. I've lived this long without wronging anyone, except for my poor youngest son. This is my only choice. Derek smiled softly. After Max fainted, you didn't scold Cole. Not even once. When I heard about that, I was very surprised. If Ruby had done it, you would have disciplined her. Because I can sense it. Cole is a very special child, Fiona mumbled. I always feel like I can't treat him like a normal mother would. I'm not even sure if his uniqueness is a good thing or a very bad thing. And what if it's bad? Then I bear some responsibility for that darkness. I should shoulder it, and you should shoulder it too. Her tone turned stubborn. If he turns out to be a bad kid, it's our fault, so we have to tolerate him. Watch over him. At the very least, don't let him cause a mess we can't clean up. All right then, Derek smiled, placing the last flower in the vase. Let's just pretend we've gone back 20+ years, becoming first-time parents all over again. Thankfully, they still have time, but in this moment, Cole's overconfidence is almost laughable. After 10 years of complete isolation, he couldn't blend in with the crowd. Not even when he was surrounded by countless other people, he couldn't connect. Whether they liked, hated, or despised him, he could never truly empathize with them. Not with any of their emotions. For him, returning to the Wood family was just another experiment, a chance to try and understand this thing called emotion. The next day, his fake fiancée said she wanted to take him over to the Sterling family estate. Once he was in the car, she didn't say a single word, so he asked her directly, aren't you going to brief me on the do's and don'ts of the Sterling family? At least give me a rundown on the members. No need. Chloe simply turned her head and smiled. Just perform however you want. If I mess things up, don't you dare blame me. He gave her a preemptive warning. Chloe huffed and smiled, her eyes curving. I'm looking forward to it. In reality, things didn't go smoothly at all. Chloe's father played the gentle gentleman, but it wasn't long before he started grilling Cole. Given your current age, you're still a college student, correct? Where do you study? Have you taken a position at the Wood family company yet? The questions themselves felt a bit overbearing, but his tone was so natural and warm, it sounded like genuine concern. An elder voices his concern. He thinks for a moment and asks him to marry Chloe. Are these questions really mandatory? I figured an engagement was enough. Of course not. It's enough to sign the papers, but to truly be married, the family needs to see what kind of groom courses he should take. Our hero tilts his head, wondering if he heard that right. And at this moment, Chloe, who had been completely silent, finally speaks. He doesn't need any courses. I don't want him enduring the so-called rules of the Sterling family. Her voice was pure ice. He couldn't be sure, but he felt the gentleman across from him twitch for just a split second. After that short, unpleasant chat ended, Chloe's father casually called her away to discuss some business, leaving our protagonist alone. So, a servant led him on a tour of the massive estate. By a man-made lake, he met the adopted daughter, Daisy Sterling. He watched as the woman, who was at least 1.7 meters tall, struggled to reel in a single fish. Eventually, a servant helped her pull up a decent-sized, but hardly monstrous, catfish. She was panting heavily, wiping the sweat from her forehead. In that moment, he felt like he was looking at some kind of fragile Victorian heroine. Once she caught her breath, Daisy introduced herself. I'm Daisy Sterling from a branch family. Due to my poor health, Uncle Charles supported me. Now, I am basically his adopted daughter. Lots of kids from other branches have been visiting lately. You'll probably meet them at dinner. Some of them can be pretty annoying, but since Big Sister is here, they won't dare bully you. So many kids from branch families, his curiosity was instantly piqued. Is there some kind of special family gathering today? I didn't know the Sterlings were so warm. Of course not, Daisy sneered. They're here to fight for the heir's position. She dropped that bombshell so casually, he couldn't help but stare at her. The Sterling family is changing heirs. You think it's unnecessary too, right? Even if my big sister can never stand up again, it won't affect her ability to control the family. I really don't understand why Uncle Charles is pushing this. Their relationship is not the same lately. She paused, adding softly, it makes me really worried. He suddenly asked, you're the adopted daughter, since when exactly? I came to this family when I was 7 or 8. I almost died of illness. My uncle and auntie took me in. She seemed to get lost in the memory, but the official adoption only came through a few years ago. I didn't think it mattered, but uncle and big sister both agreed, so I just went with it. A long, meaningful hem escaped his lips, as if he'd just uncovered something absolutely fascinating. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, propping his chin up with his hands. His pitch-black eyes scanned Daisy. His gaze was as cold as someone picking out a slab of pork at the butcher's shop. So by that logic, you're on the backup list of heirs, aren't you? Daisy just offered up a bitter smile. Stop joking with me, Mr. Wood. Even if you are worried for Big Sister, there is no need to target me. With this weak body of mine, living to 30 would be a miracle. How could I ever aim for the head of the Sterling family? She leaned back into the soft cushions, exhausted. Daisy let out a breath, saying, even if they handed me that position, I'd probably die of exhaustion on the first day. A huge clan like the Sterlings isn't something a sick person like me can handle. He leaned back in his own chair. Daisy's display of weakness seemed to clear his earlier suspicion. But then the words from his mouth were completely devoid of emotion. Human ambition has nothing to do with physical health. In this world, there are thieves and killers who are just 7 or 8, and there are 80-year-old men who still chase young girls. If you want the Sterling family, even if you were to die tomorrow, that wouldn't stop you from making a move today. A brief silence fell over the lake, until a gust of wind blew by and Daisy suddenly burst out laughing. First a chuckle. Then it became a full-blown cackle, laughing until she was completely out of breath. But soon, that laughter turned into a violent coughing fit, escalating into pure agony. Seeing Daisy clutching her chest, curled up in pain with her face twisted, he blinked and finally stood up, stepping closer. Are you okay? He gently patted her back as she heaved. From the intense coughing, Just as he was about to grab his phone to call Chloe, his phone was suddenly snatched from his hand. On reflex, he reached to grab it back, but only managed to catch Daisy's collar. In that exact moment, Daisy, with a look of absolute calm, leaned straight backward toward the lake. Her body weight pulled him a step forward. Just as he was about to be dragged in, he didn't hesitate for a second to let go. Splash! A massive pillar of water erupted by the lakeside. From afar, terrified screams echoed out. Instantly, a chorus of angry voices rushed straight for him. Daisy fell in the water. Someone pushed her in, murder. He looked at the chaotic figures swarming him and calmly accepted one single truth. This invitation from the Sterling family was never about curiosity or a welcome. It was a vicious trap. So that's why Chloe told him to just perform however he wanted. Inside a room filled with medical gear, the heart monitor beeped on. Standing by the massive window at the end of the hall, Charles had his back to Chloe. He was silent for a long time. What do you plan to do? Do about what? Chloe's tone was completely indifferent, not a ripple. Charles spun around furiously, slamming his cane against the floor. You're asking me. That fiancé you chose came to our family as a guest, and on day one, he pushes Daisy into the water. Don't you know Daisy's health condition? What he did was basically attempted murder. Charles rarely got this angry. The wrinkles on his forehead deepened. I had heard that the newly returned third young master of the Wood family was an arrogant, lawless punk. Someone who could even anger his own grandmother. But because you liked him, I was willing to observe, but look at what he's done now. His anger morphed into profound grief. He pointed a finger at Chloe. Look at yourself. Daisy is the sister who grew up right beside you. Right now, she's lying in a hospital bed, hovering between life and death, and you don't show a single shred of emotion. All for that man. You two have barely known each other for a few days. Chloe just calmly looked at the man before her. So what do you want? Charles spoke slowly. Cancel the engagement. She will not marry him. Meanwhile, he was just sitting on the living room sofa. He was completely surrounded by the Branch family's kids, and right now, they were all screaming at him. Why did you push Daisy? You could have killed her, you know that. I heard you're the eldest Mrs. Fiancé. Well, not after today, you're not. Don't even try to deny it, either. We all saw exactly what you did. Just because Big Sister supports you, don't think you can get away with anything. Daisy's position in the Sterling family is just as important as our big sister's. Say something. What's wrong? You scared now? A finger jabbed right at his shoulder. He leaned back, dodging the touch. You dare to dodge? The spoiled kids were furious. They all moved in closer, looking like they were about to jump him. What is all of this? A cold voice from the doorway instantly silenced the entire room. Charles walked in, taking a seat on the sofa right across from him. Mr. Wood, out of respect for our families, I am not calling the police. But in exchange, I want you to voluntarily end the engagement with Chloe. I can't accept a man who would viciously attack a sick person as my son-in-law. I trust you understand, but our main character just stared at him in total silence. You haven't asked if I even pushed her or waited for her to wake up and confirm it. A mocking smile flashed across Charles's face, but before he could even reply, the Branch family kids started shouting all over again. Why should he ask? We saw it. You pushed Daisy into the water while she was coughing, so many of us saw it. How could it be a lie? Are you really going to deny that you pushed her? He looked up at Chloe for a moment, then lowered his gaze and suddenly spoke. Yeah, I pushed her. Just like that, the chaotic living room fell completely and utterly silent. Charles's eyebrow shot up, and his expression turned even darker. It's good that you admit it, otherwise we would have just asked Daisy herself. No need for that, I'll confess to everything. A slight smirk appeared on his face. But aren't you all just a little bit curious about why I would push her? You have to know, I've never even met this girl. I didn't even know her name. No history, no grudge, so why would I do something like that? Charles's eye twitched. He was about to say that the reason didn't matter when someone from the crowd spoke up. Why, it's because she was talking bad about Chloe, wasn't it? The whole room paused. For a split second, there was silence, before it erupted into even more noise. That's impossible. What are you talking about? Daisy would never do that. She and the eldest miss have an amazing relationship. At that moment, he picked up a slice of cake. It was a piece of white cake that had been sitting out. He took a bite, then cut them all off. Come to think of it, she wasn't just talking trash about Chloe, she trash-talked all of you. She said that a ton of Branch family kids had shown up at the main house recently. I thought you were all one big happy family, but she said something different. She called you all a school of fish fighting over the same little bit of food, fat and useless. Lowly bloodlines with big dreams of grandeur. The second the main house calls, you all come running, sucking up to everyone. Bringing gifts, ready to lick her uncle's shoes just for a chance to replace Chloe. She called you all round earthworms who could never dream of becoming dragons. She said you deserved to be stuck in the mud, to become nothing more than fish food. Everyone wanted to believe he was just making it all up, but the words hit way too close to home. The accusations hit their mark. With everyone exposed so blatantly, many faces turned bright red. But before anyone could protest, he suddenly pointed his finger across the room. His target, Charles, who watched on, completely expressionless from the distance. And you, Uncle Charles, he announced, she called you an evil old immortal. The second your own daughter was disabled, you couldn't wait to kick her out. To the curb, using these poor kids as bait without a single hesitation. But he continued, luckily, she inherited your blood, so whatever you can do, she can do too. With that bombshell dropped, he finished his cake and smacked his lips. Under the bright lights, he tilted his head with faux innocence, looking at Charles. She said she's your daughter, Uncle Charles. So it turns out, besides Chloe, you have an illegitimate child. That one hit the mark. Charles, so calm during all the accusations, finally snapped, his expression shattered. He shot straight to his feet. In the bright hall, everyone saw it clearly. Charles was breathing hard, his chest heaving violently with barely suppressed rage. It looked like he was holding back an inferno that could erupt at any second. No one had ever seen Charles like this, not the Branch family members who just arrived. Not even his own daughter, Chloe, had ever witnessed it. So many years ago, River City's high society always referred to Charles in relation to others as Uncle Sterling's son, CEO Sterling's husband, or Chloe's father. As the only son from a forgotten generation, he was universally recognized for being mediocre, no special talent, no ruthless tactics. Whenever this Sterling family head was mentioned, people couldn't hide the disdain in their voice. That is, until Chloe was born. Growing up hailed as a teenage genius, the title of Sterling family head naturally shifted to her. Before officially taking over, Chloe should have just been considered a junior Sterling. Just like Charles, who lived under his own father's shadow. Acting as junior head for over 30 years without one day of real power. But his own daughter snatched that title from right under him. It was like an emperor skipping the crown prince to directly crown the royal grandson. Back then, everyone waited for Charles to become a laughingstock, but he didn't. He accepted it all with shocking grace and tolerance. In social circles over the years, he displayed a gentle, humble charm, and the mockery faded. Now, many had forgotten Charles ever went through such a humiliating period. When people mention him now, they call him a kind philanthropist, the most forgiving clan leader around, but people still called him CEO Sterling. A habit formed over many years had become instinct. The title of Sterling family head, the one representing true power, never really landed on him. Yet he remained calm, like a man born only knowing how to smile, incapable of anger or dominance. Until now, seeing his chest heaving violently, a few of the younger guests actually showed fear. Thankfully, Charles reined it in. He took a few deep breaths. Then he opened his eyes and stared sternly at Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood, I have no intention of taking your parents' place to discipline you. But the words you just said are not just slander against the victim, Daisy. They're also an accusation against me and an extreme insult to Chloe's mother. I'm just repeating what I heard. I'm not accusing you, and I am certainly not. Model accusing Chloe's mother. Besides, even if Daisy was spouting nonsense, she was only accusing me. What does that have to do with your late wife? He interrupted him disrespectfully, his expression completely unbothered. Anyone could tell he lacked a proper upbringing. Veins on Charles's hand gripping the cane bulged, but his tone stayed calm. You just arrived in River City, so perhaps you don't fully understand. My late wife and I are not like your parents and their business marriage. We married for love. There was none of that cliché, wealthy family drama. In this life, until the day I die, I will never betray her, not for a single minute or second, even though she has passed. Then why didn't you just die with her? He shot back rudely. He interrupted again. If you loved your wife that much, why didn't you die with her? Charles froze instantly. Despite his vast experience, he couldn't react. I might not understand much, but I have heard that if you truly love someone, you live and die for them. You didn't die for your wife. Does that mean you are living for her? But if that's the case, why is it that the moment the daughter she birthed became disabled, you were in such a rush to find her a replacement? His tone was relaxed, but every word landed like a stone. No one in the small hall spoke. The other kids were all hunched over, wishing they could just sink through the floor, pretending to be both deaf and blind. Charles's hand trembled slightly, a sign he was about to lose control. Only Chloe remained completely calm. She sat straight in her wheelchair, looking directly at Charles as if trying to see through every expression, every single twisted wrinkle. The dead silence lasted for about a minute. Just as Charles tightened his grip on his cane, preparing to stand up, Chloe spoke. All right. She turned to look at him. You are new to River City. There are many things you do not understand yet. I'll explain them later. For now, wheel me out. I will take you to my room. The atmosphere instantly defrosted. Charles looked at Chloe with absolute displeasure. He had a whole speech prepared to paint himself as the total victim and officially cancel the engagement while he was at it. But Chloe's attitude suggested he was merely ignorant, not to blame. A father who always presented himself as gentle couldn't just actively condemn him in a fit of rage now. He could only watch numbly as our hero wheeled Chloe away. Looking at the other kids trembling like frightened birds, Charles's eye twitched. He let out a slow, exhausted sigh and massaged his temples. Why did Chloe pick a fiancé like this? Did Daisy really say those things to you? Of course not, he answered bluntly. I made it all up. Aren't you afraid she will expose your lie when she wakes up? Expose me based on what? Just because she says it, it's the truth, but if I say it, it must be fake. In Chloe's study, he toyed with an hourglass on her desk. At that time, there were only the two of us by the lake. No one can testify for me, which means no one can testify for her either. Even so, how did you come up with the idea to fabricate those specific words? It was not a total fabrication. I just broadly described the things Daisy said to me. She really did look down on those newcomers, even though she seemed to be acting indignant on your behalf. She mentioned her inheritance rights, then deliberately went into her poor health at length to prove she didn't dare want the position. But he always believed the best way to hide a desire is to act completely indifferent. More you emphasize it, the more you care. He tapped the chair, saying slowly, I am sure she has designs on your position, so that part I wasn't making it up. Then Daisy being his biological daughter, you figured that out too. This time he simply shook his head. That part I made up. Chloe was speechless. What are you even thinking? She asked seriously. All it takes is a DNA test to confirm this. Yet you dared to spout such nonsense. Have you thought that once the results prove they aren't father and daughter, everything you said will become total garbage? It's no loss to me. I can see Daisy really wants to be a true member of the Sterling family, even when she keeps saying she's adopted. Her attitude towards a guest like me clearly showed that she sees herself as the master of the house. She has desire, ambition, but she doesn't dare show it. For a person like her, even with the smallest sliver of a chance she's his real daughter, she would only feel incredibly excited and thrilled, and then start having even grander delusions. In that scenario, if you insist on dragging her for a paternity test to clear things up, and the result is negative, it will cause a massive psychological blow and an inferiority complex. She will start to resent your father. Even if she absolutely refuses to admit it, the more she denies the feeling, the more frustrated she'll become. And through that obsession, she'll only confirm her own true desires and ambitions even more. That means a crack will definitely form in their relationship with your father. And once there's a crack, you'll have more room to maneuver, right? Chloe countered, "Do you know a paternity test result only takes one night?" She probably hasn't even thought of that. Even 1 minute is enough. He shrugged. The birth and growth of desire doesn't need any time. After a few seconds of silence, he looked up directly at Chloe. "The most important thing is, after I dropped that bomb, even though your dad showed extreme fury, he didn't immediately suggest taking a paternity test." At that, Chloe's pupils shrank. He hesitated for just a moment, but continued. "Even though I was just bluffing before, I'm now feeling like I might have actually hit the jackpot. Maybe you should strike first. Go get a strand of Daisy's hair." Chloe was silent for a long, long time. Then she asked, "Did you study psychology?" He nodded, but then added, "Don't misunderstand. My major doesn't teach these kinds of dark arts. I just have a knack for reading people, and I have deliberately studied it for years." "Why, are you that curious about the human heart?" "The exact opposite. I have no curiosity about humanity at all." "Then why? I'm only curious about myself. I can see through others, but I just can't seem to see through myself." He paused. "Sounds incredibly corny, but that's pretty much the idea." Chloe tapped her fingers on the desk, deep in thought. After an incident like that, the welcome dinner was obviously ruined. Hearing Daisy had briefly woken up, Chloe immediately had him leave the Sterling estate. When he got home, he bumped right into Derek, who had just returned. The man gently gestured for him to come closer, then his gaze turned cold. He stared at Chloe. "You didn't watch my son well, did you?" Her reply was flat. "I'm very sorry." Chloe sat in the car, her head slightly bowed. "It won't ever happen again next time." Derek's smile was all ice. "I hope next time I'll be getting a cancellation notice from the head of the Sterlings." "Then Uncle Wood won't have to wait." Chloe shot back, "That day will never come." A rare chuckle escaped Derek. "I heard Daisy Sterling is in bad shape, but she has 9 lives. She'll wake up sooner or later." Derek couldn't believe how callous she sounded. Was this really Chloe talking? Could a single car accident change a person so drastically? Before this, she was a bigger pacifist than even Charles. What happened? Derek paused for a moment. "My father won't allow me to be the one to break the engagement. Unless I have no other choice, I refuse to make the first move. Therefore, I expect you to handle all the rumors that are spreading about my son. Everything that happened at your house today has already gotten out." Derek's eyes went dark, his jaw tight. "Your Sterling family is as leaky as a sieve." Chloe was quiet for a second. "I will take care of it." Before she left, Cole peeked out from behind Derek, giving her a little wave. Chloe's eyes crinkled into a warm smile. Cole looked at her, suddenly thinking her smile was just like a little puppy's. The drama now over, he turned and went inside. But his good mood was short-lived. Soon, 2 uninvited guests appeared at the gate. Derek saw them at the gate, paused for a beat, and then walked over. "Mom," but the old woman just sneered, refusing to even step foot inside the property. "So you still remember I'm your mother?" "I think not. Throwing away your family of decades, all for some newly found son. I raised you for years, and I never thought you'd hit a rebellious phase at this age." "Mom, what are you saying?" "I still sleep at the main house at night. Please, come inside so we can talk." "I wouldn't dare." Her cold, cloudy eyes swept over the scene. Didn't someone say nobody is allowed inside without your son's permission? Max nearly collapsed out here. How could this old woman possibly dare to step through your precious front door? Max, silent as a ghost until now, finally looked up, his eyes darting between them. With a pleading look on his face, he desperately tugged on the old lady's sleeve. "Granny, let's just go home." Her response was a shriek. "Go home? What home? This property belongs to the Wood family, and anything that belongs to them has your name on it." Before her shouting could even end, Cole had already turned his back on them. He walked straight into the house. Catching a glimpse of his retreating back, Granny Wood's chest tightened with pure rage. Shaking, she pointed a finger. "Cole, you stop right there." He froze, inside the house. The spacious kitchen. Fiona was still busy setting out the food. The crab roe dish that Derek had requested was already on the table. Even from far away, it looked incredibly appetizing under the warm lights. An instant hunger hit Cole hard. He wanted a bite right now, which made the two people behind him incredibly annoying. It had been so long since he'd felt this impatient, this disgusted. A wave of nausea, of pure malice. This didn't feel like he was facing family. More like trash blocking his path, an obstacle he needed to dispose of for good. With his back to the last rays of the setting sun, he slowly raised his eyes. At that moment, Granny Wood, completely unaware of his dangerous mood, just kept on yelling. "Cole, I'm talking to you, did you hear me?" Derek's eyes turned to ice. He stepped forward, blocking his mother's glare. "Mom, get out of my way." For the very first time, Granny Wood stared at him, disappointed and furious. "I never knew you were so heartless and ungrateful. This jinx returns and you toss aside Max, the boy you raised for 20 years. Do I, as your mother, mean nothing to you anymore?" Derek kept his head low, saying nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Mom, calm down. If you have something to say, let's say it inside." "Inside? You think I'd dare without your precious son's permission? Who would dare step foot through your door?" Granny Wood stressed the words, "your door," sharply. Derek rubbed his temples, exhausted. "So what do you want? We can't just stand here at the door, making a scene for everyone to laugh at. Let them watch, let them see it all." Ever since that jinx returned, the Wood family has become the laughingstock of River City. "I don't care about my reputation anymore." Derek's brow furrowed. "Mom, he is my son, not. He's your grandson, too." In his dreams, the old woman shouted, "He won't even acknowledge me as his grandmother. Do you expect me to stoop so low and accept that jinx as my grandson? Don't you know what happened at the Sterling family's house today? Your precious son dared to push the Sterling's adopted daughter right into the water. That girl Daisy was already so frail, and she's been unconscious until now." Her venomous gaze shot past Derek, locking onto Cole's motionless back. "Cole, do you feel any guilt for doing something so malicious? And you?" Granny Wood glared at Fiona, who had rushed out in a panic. "What are you thinking, acting like nothing's happened, cooking and planting flowers here?" Fiona, having only heard part of it, quickly said, "It might not have been Cole who did it. We were just, good heavens." The old woman screamed, cutting her off. She clutched her chest, panting heavily. "Are you going crazy right along with him?" The wrinkles on her face twisted in pure fury and shock. Her trembling finger pointed straight at Cole. "This jinx, as soon as he came back, he made me faint twice. Then he forced Max to stand in the blazing sun until he got heatstroke. Now he goes to someone else's house to try and commit murder. Mom, how is that murder? Chloe Sterling personally said that Cole didn't push anyone. You believe that crippled Chloe Sterling's words? Who else in that entire Sterling family supports her besides that old hag? I've been saying it all along. This jinx used some dirty trick to seduce Chloe. You think he found a backer and can now act so arrogant in front of me. But look at Chloe's situation. If she weren't a cripple, would she ever look twice at Cole?" The old lady's vicious gaze was pinned to his back. "I only agreed to let him come back to take Max's place, to marry that hopeless cripple. Max was raised by this family for 20 years. He shouldn't have to suffer like this, but look what happened. he caused a total disaster at the Sterling family home and enraged Charles. I bet he can't even marry that cripple now. And you too, you fools, are defending him. She painfully pulled Max closer. You fools letting my Max get bullied like this for a piece of trash. You have no conscience at all. The front yard of the villa fell into a dead silence. Fiona stood there in the yard. Her hands still wet from cooking, now clenched into tight fists. Her eyes were red, her chest heaving, unable to speak. To speak, outside the iron gate, Granny Wood looked like she'd just won a war. A smug look on her face. But for her, the most urgent thing right now was appeasing Charles and the powerful Sterling family. Even though they didn't fear them, the Sterling's foundation was deeper and their connections were vast. If Charles decided to make the Wood family pay for this, things would get ugly. Incredibly troublesome, but the boy simply turned, his tone full of false curiosity. So what do you think I should do to appease them, Cole? Fiona sensed the hostility in his voice and stepped forward to stop him, but he blocked her behind him. Granny Wood sneered. Obviously, you go to their door and apologize. Do whatever they tell you, even if they sue you for attempted murder. You will obediently sit in the defendant's chair, of course, as long as you're obedient, the Wood family will pull some strings to make your life. It's a little comfortable. After all, you have Wood family blood. Hearing this, he tilted his chin up slightly. Well then, what an absolute honor for me. That calm tone made the old woman furious. Just as she was about to launch into a vicious rant, a noise from a phone suddenly cut her off. Then came a barrage of very familiar shouting. You believe that crippled Chloe Sterling's words. Who else in the Sterling family supports her besides that old hag, even though we don't fear them, their foundation is deeper than ours and their connections are much wider once Charles decides to make the Wood family pay for this. It'll be incredibly troublesome. The phone screen cast a faint, cold glow. That venomous voice from the recording echoed through the now silent yard. Granny Wood stood frozen outside the iron gate, completely dumbfounded. Reflected in her cloudy eyes was the image of a teenager, head down, tapping away on his phone. Let's see here, where are my messages with Chloe? Ah, found it. Click sent.